I regained a lot of my mental health. I started being able to focus on the present, having mind clarity to be able to talk to my kids and give them the message that there was something happening with my spine in one of my vertebrae. Um, I did not tell them that I was potentially facing a cancer diagnosis because I didn't want to pass this stress onto them. At the end, when I finished, I collected the chi with my hands and then I opened my eyes slowly. My wife told me, "Wow, what did you do? That was like really intense. You were sweating like if you were running or exercising or doing something." And I told her, "I don't know. It was something very, very special." Anyways, we got to the hospital. They performed the PET CT, went back home, and a few days afterwards, when the results came back, um, the diagnosis was completely different because now it had changed from being a lytic lesion, meaning that the bone is being destroyed, to now being described as a sclerotic lesion. And that meaning that the bone was already kind of remodeling itself, kind of scarring and curing itself. Um, and that for me was probably the best news ever because um, the other thing that they said is that this lesion was basically occupying the full body of the vertebra, not just a little spot which was destroying the bone around it, which was supposedly a tumor, and that's what they were trying to find out. But this lesion, this sclerotic lesion with the bone remodeling, was occupying the full body of the vertebra. I cannot even put a value to going through this program. I think it's life changing, and I think I just have to say thank you, Professor Eduardo, for showing us this marvelous technique. Um, Thank you to my wife for bringing me back into connecting with Professor Eduardo and the group. Thank you to the team behind Professor Eduardo making things happen with with a podcast and with a webcast and with an app that we have now and everything that goes around just the delivery of the program and answering our questions and being there for us. Thank you for doing that. And I think that's what I can share with everyone today. So my recommendation, if you have a chance, uh, find the opportunity to enroll in one of these programs with Professor Eduardo. It's going to be life changing, as it has been for me. Thank you very much. Well, hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernardo. I am originally from Mexico City. I'm 55 years old. Um, Somewhere about 10 years ago, we relocated, me and my family, we relocated to New Jersey, and this is where I'm currently living. And I wanted to tell my brief story with how Chin Chikun has radically transformed my life in recent experiences. So let me start by telling you a little bit about how did we connect for the first time with Fuerza Integral 4 years ago. And this was because my wife received some type of a maybe recommendation from some friend, or maybe she was just looking into similar techniques, meditation techniques and stuff. And she just got this ad for Fuerza Integral and the course that they were delivering. This was like 4 years ago. So we both signed up for that. We traveled back to Mexico City, and we used the time to be for a few days with family. But me and my wife, we went to the course back then. Back then, I was playing, a few days before the course started, I was playing football with my son, and I had a fall and I injured my knee. And when we went to the course, I have to say I was a bit skeptical, but at the same time, my knee was bothering me, so I was in pain, and it didn't allow me to do all the exercises that were required back then, like the squats and all that stuff. So Quite frankly, I did not really enjoy the course 4 years ago that much, but my wife did, and she came back and she started practicing, and she's very disciplined in that sense. And she's been practicing, I would say, basically every single day since then. And I've been able to see very impactful results on her. Um, but on my side, I did not start practicing as I should until this last January, when I was getting ready to get to work. And I suddenly started feeling a stabbing pain on my lower back. It got worse when I tried to straight up and stand still, straighten up. Um, so I managed to get to the office that day, and I tried to find an appointment with a chiropractor for that afternoon. And I was very lucky because I did get an appointment with a chiropractor, which is close by our place, for that same day. And he took a couple X-rays of my spine, and then he told me, "Listen, I'm going to align your spine, and I think that the pain is going to fade away, and this is going to help you. But I cannot see the discs with the X-rays. What I can see is the space in between the vertebra, and I think that there's potentially some issue with one of your discs because the space is kind of compressed. But I would really like you to take a look at that disc, and for that we need an MRI." So he sent me for the MRI, which I went to, a couple days afterwards. And when the MRI results came back, I was surprised because I went to the chiropractor's office, and I was surprised that it was not only him, but also the medical director from that clinic waiting for me to come in. So basically, he confirmed that the MRI had shown a bulged disc in my lower spine. But then he said, "No, we need to get serious because there's something else going on." And then the medical director started addressing the problem. And basically, he described it as a lytic lesion happening in one of my vertebrae. And what that means is that there was something going on, which was kind of destroying the bone inside the vertebra. So he mentioned that the potential list of causes was long. And he started asking questions like, for instance, did I have any history of arthritis? And I said, no, not even in my family. Have you had any fall? Have you hit yourself? Have you had any trauma, any accident that received some, maybe some trauma in that particular area? And I said, no, nothing like that. So at the end, he ended up saying, "Well, listen, we need to take a look at this because one of the potential causes for this may be cancer." And I was like, "What are we talking about here?" I have to say that in the holidays back in December last year, um, we went to see a doctor, which in Mexico, and we did a lot of blood work and urine work and all the different lab tests that you can imagine, and everything showed perfectly fine. So I was surprised that 2.5 weeks after those tests had been taken in Mexico and back here with this stabbing pain, I was now facing a potential diagnosis of cancer. That was like really striking. And my mind obviously started going places with the most catastrophic scenarios that anyone can imagine. Um, I was struggling to stay present. I was always kind of having trouble sleeping, and as I said, my mind going places and not even knowing what to do or what to do next. But anyways, that particular day when we received that potential diagnosis, we went directly to our GP, the general practitioner's office, and asked her to refer us to an oncology center, which she did. Um, I called them the day after. This was late in the afternoon, so I called them the day after, and they gave me an appointment for like 3 weeks after that. At the same time, a friend from work helped me to get another appointment with a hematology oncology center. And when I called them, and thanks, because thanks to this being a recommendation, I also got it kind of quickly, 3 weeks from that day. So the appointments were one day one and one day the other one, but there was like 3 weeks waiting period in between the appointment with the chiropractor and the doctor and those appointments at the oncology centers. So those 3 weeks really proved to be, a lot of stress, and not just for me, for my wife. I didn't know what to tell my kids, if I should tell my kids. And by the way, I have two teenagers. They're both in high school, and I didn't want to pass all this stress on them. So we had to really think carefully what to tell them. I was not feeling well. I was in pain. My mind was playing tricks on me, and so I think that I found the right words after we started practicing, because my wife told me, listen, yes, we can wait for these doctor's appointments, but in the meantime, you have all the resources because you already took the course, you've seen me practicing, and you can also start practicing in a more serious manner. Because back then, as I said, 4 years before that, I was quite frankly a bit skeptical about Shin and Qigong. And I said, listen, I'm going to do whatever is needed. I'm going to try whatever's there out there, because I want to fight this and I want to to be here, right? So I started practicing, and just by starting to practice, I regained a lot of my mental health. I started being able to focus on the present, having mind clarity to be able to talk to my kids and give them the message that there was something happening with my spine in one of my vertebrae. Um, I did not tell them that I was potentially facing a cancer diagnosis, because I didn't want to pass this stress on to them. But I did tell them that I would be seeing doctors, and that once we knew something else, I would keep them posted. But for now, I would require their help to help me with walking the dog and taking out the trash at nights, and carrying the water jugs, and things like that, which quite frankly I was not able to do those days because I was in pain. So, anyways, started practicing podcast 11, and that brought a lot of calmness and clarity, and being able to focus on what was needed back then at the moment. Um, my wife also found out that, and thanks to the connections with the groups that she's been practicing with since 4 years ago, she learned that there was a course that was just about to be open, and it was a virtual course. The one that we had taken before was a face-to-face course in Mexico, as I said. This one was a virtual one, so what a better opportunity for me to refresh everything that I had learned back then, and that I could now put to practice once again. So she asked me if I wanted to, and I said, well, ask about it, let me know the details. And she did ask, and gave me not just the details, but she basically registered me for the course. And she came back saying, okay, you're starting this Thursday. And I was like, okay, thank you for that. So I started taking the course with Eduardo, and an amazing group. And it was an excellent refresher of all the different, concepts of Shin and Chikun. That made me start practicing a little more intensely. Before the course started as well, I was practicing with my wife, and not only podcast 11, but we also were collecting chi. And I clearly remember that those probably 3 nights that we that practice, um, my hands were feeling this very powerful chi in between my hands, um, and there was something going on which I had never felt before. So I started practicing on a daily basis during the course weeks. Um, in the meantime, I went to these oncology appointments with the doctors, and they basically explained the different types of tumors that could be the cause for the situation, and then explained what needed to what I needed to go through in order to get a proper diagnosis. And the next step that they both recommended was, and I was very happy because they were aligned on their recommendations and points of view. They recommended that I got a PET CT, and this is like a computer tomography in which they infuse some radioactive material into your vein, and that kind of gets absorbed by the areas where there is some type of tumoral activity or some type of activity. So that gets detected, and it's a full body scan. So basically, they can know if there's a primary tumor somewhere else in the body. So I went through that. A few days after that, um, and I'm sorry, I'm missing a piece which is very relevant here. When we were on the way to this MRI, to this PET CT, sorry, my wife was driving. I was on the passenger seat, and I started practicing with my eyes closed, practicing just with my mind, and it was such a special moment for me because I started to sweat so much more than if I was exercising. I started sweating all over my head. My face was kind of sweating all over the place. My chest, my back, my arms, my legs, all my body was sweating as intensely as you can imagine. And in a different occasion, I think that I would have just stopped and probably clean up the sweat and from my face and open the window. I don't know. I would have probably interrupted my practice. But I clearly remember Eduardo telling us the mind has to be focused on what you're doing. So I kept on doing my all the exercise and practicing infinite sky, lower dantian, and so forth, up and down. And I kept on sweating, and I could feel the sweat, but I was focused and trying to focus myself once again on going up and down in my mind. And at the end, when I finished, I collected the chi with my hands, and then I opened my eyes slowly. My wife told me, "Wow, what did you do? That was like really intense. You were sweating like if you were running or exercising or doing something." And I told her, "I don't know. It was something very, very special." Anyways, we got to the hospital. They performed the PET CT, went back home, and a few days afterwards, when the results came back, um, the diagnosis was completely different because now it had changed from being a lytic lesion, meaning that the bone is being destroyed, to now being described as a sclerotic lesion. And that meaning that the bone was already kind of remodeling itself, kind of scarring and curing itself. Um, and that for me was probably the best news ever because um, the other thing that they said is that this lesion was basically occupying the full body of the vertebra, not just a little spot which was destroying the bone around it, which was supposedly a tumor, and that's what they were trying to find out. But this lesion, this sclerotic lesion with the bone remodeling, was occupying the full body of the vertebra. And that made them think that this was definitely not a malignant disease, but some other type of benign disease. And the doctor told me that the only way that we had to actually confirm that this was not cancer was to go through a tissue biopsy. So I did go through the tissue biopsy once again, like another week afterwards. By then, it had been already probably like almost 2 months since my stabbing pain on the back the first day. So I went to the tissue biopsy. They actually took two biopsies from my vertebra that day, and then like a week after, when the pathology results came back, we went to see the doctor, and he informed us of the results, and it was confirmed that it was a benign disease. And now I'm still waiting to see another physician to see if there's any treatment required. But the great news was that this was not cancer at all, and that made us like so happy. So I don't know exactly what happened that particular day, but with the practice and with all these intense experiences, collecting chi, and then all this sweating that I experienced while practicing while in the car, I do believe that those had something to do with my body and with that particular area. I can talk about some of the learnings during this process, right? And some of the learnings were that the practice did allow me to gain clarity of mind, to stay focused, to keep a positive mindset, even in spite of the potentially catastrophic diagnosis. I was staying positive, and I was like always, um, even trying to enjoy every single moment. And I think that's the most important learning. Um, I learned that every single moment has something that we need to be grateful for and something that we can enjoy and that we can keep for our memories, even while going through these difficult times. Um, and then something else that I have to acknowledge is gratitude. Gratitude to my wife because she pulled me back into using this amazing resource of Chin and Qigong and connecting back again with Professor Eduardo, who led us through again understanding and bringing back to practice these techniques. Um, and during this journey, um, obviously, I had a support not only from my wife, my kids, my family, but also my other friends from the learning group, um, which were always supportive and always kind of cheering us up when we were sharing our achievements during the course. And that brought us together and that helped us to also celebrate our achievements. And that was very important as well for me because I was able to share for the first time with that smaller group. And now I'm sharing with a much bigger group, I hope. Um, I think that the value of going through this training program, I cannot put a monetary value on this. I think that the values I said is that it has transformed me and my life because of the way in which I was able to manage this very complex situation with clarity of mind, with a positive mindset, with enjoying every single moment. I remember one of those days, I even dressed up and my wife as well, and we brought my kids to have dinner at a nice restaurant with a very nice view. And I really enjoyed that moment so much. Not because I was thinking it was my last dinner, nothing like that. Just because I was really connected and enjoying that particular moment. And I think that was thanks to the practice as well. So in terms of value, that's what I can say. I mean, I cannot even put a value to going through this program. I think it's life changing, and I think I just have to say thank you, Professor Eduardo, for showing us this marvelous technique. Um, Thank you to my wife for bringing me back into connecting with Fuerza Integral and Professor Eduardo and the group. Thank you to the team behind Professor Eduardo making things happen with with a podcast and with a webcast and with an app that we have now and everything that goes around just the delivery of the program and answering our questions and being there for us. Thank you for doing that. And I think that's what I can share with everyone today. So my recommendation, if you have a chance, uh, find the opportunity to enroll in one of these programs with Professor Eduardo. It's going to be life changing, as it has been for me. Thank you very much.